The captain of the cargo vessel involved in a collision in the North Sea has been arrested on suspicion of manslaughter.
Former Philippine President Rodrigo Duterte is arriving in The Hague to face charges of crimes against humanity at the International Criminal Court. The EU is hitting back at U.S. steel and aluminium tariffs with a set of countermeasures targeting a variety of American products.
The captain of a cargo ship involved in a collision has been arrested in England on suspicion of manslaughter by gross negligence. This after details emerged that the ship had failed several safety checks last year, but was not detained. The 59-year-old captain is of Russian origin, the vessel's owner said on Wednesday. He has not been named by authorities. The cargo ship collided on Monday with a US tanker transporting jet fuel in the North Sea, setting both vessels ablaze. One sailor from the cargo vessel is missing and presumed dead. The other 36 crew members from the two vessels were brought safely ashore, with no major injuries. UK authorities say they have so far found no evidence of foul play in the crash.
Former Philippine President Rodrigo Duterte is arriving in The Hague on Wednesday to face charges of crimes against humanity at the International Criminal Court. He was arrested in Manila a day earlier on orders of the ICC, which has been investigating the mass killings linked to the former president's deadly crackdown on drugs. Both protesters and supporters of Duterte gathered in front of the ICC in The Hague ahead of his arrival.
We're in remembering the time during his administration that basically gave a blanket immunity and encouraged this culture of terror for anyone who was suspected for as a drug user, and there was no due process at all. There were 30,000 people who were killed randomly without due process. Among them, more than 100 were children.
Duterte will be held in a UN prison complex about 2 kilometers from the ICC. After he is taken into custody, he could challenge the court's jurisdiction and the admissibility of the case. While the Philippines is no longer a member of the ICC, the alleged crimes happened before Manila withdrew from the court. The EU is hitting back at U.S. steel and aluminium tariffs with a set of countermeasures targeting a variety of American products. In her announcement of the package, European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen criticized the Trump administration's decision to raise tariffs to 25%, which took effect on Wednesday.
Tariffs are taxes. They are bad for business and worse for consumers. They are disrupting supply chains. They bring uncertainty for the economy. Jobs are at stake, prices up. Nobody needs that. On both sides, neither in the European Union nor in the United States.
Von der Leyen said the countermeasures on 26 billion euros of U.S. goods are a proportionate response, but also emphasized openness to a negotiated solution.
We firmly believe that in a world fraught with geo-economic and political uncertainties, it is not in our common interest to burden our economies with such tariffs. We're ready to engage in a meaningful dialogue.
The EU countermeasures will be implemented in 2 phases, starting April 1st to be fully in place by April 13th.
Greenland's pro-independence centre-right Democratic Party has won the parliamentary elections, taking home nearly 30% of the vote. It was followed by the more aggressively pro-independence Narilak Party, which won 25%. In third place came the Prime Minister's Inuit Ataqatigiit Party, with over 21%. The left-wing Siumut Party came in fourth place with nearly 15% of the vote. The results suggest the public voted on healthcare, education, cultural heritage and social policies over US President Donald Trump's stated goal of taking control of the island. Democratic, which is described as pro-business and favors a slow approach to independence from Denmark, will now get a chance to form a governing coalition via talks with other parties.
Ukraine agreed to accept a US proposed immediate 30-day ceasefire in Russia's ongoing invasion of the Eastern European country. However, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky emphasized that the success of the initiative depends on Russia's willingness to participate.
Україна сприймає цю пропозицію. Ми вважаємо це позитивним. Ми готові зробити такий крок. Сполучені Штати Америки мають переконати Росію зробити це. Тобто ми погоджуємось, і якщо русські погодяться, в той самий момент тиша запрацює.
Besides the ceasefire proposal, the Trump administration lifted its suspension of military aid and intelligence sharing for Ukraine. US President Donald Trump said he hoped the deal could be solidified over the next few days.
I'll talk to Vladimir Putin, yeah. I want to get, look, that's the other, it takes two to tango, as they say, right? So hopefully he'll also agree, and I really think that would be 75% of the way. The rest is getting it documented and, you know, negotiating land positions, etc.
The deal marks a significant change of tone between the US and Ukraine, with both countries now signaling they are on the same side in ongoing negotiations. Romania's constitutional court unanimously voted to uphold a decision rejecting ultranationalist Călin Georgescu's candidacy in upcoming presidential elections, sparking a fresh round of protests by his supporters.
Now, this decision is final and cannot be overturned according to Romanian law, which left his political allies scrambling to find a suitable replacement in time, especially since raising the required number of signatures to register a new candidate might prove to be a challenge.
Last weekend, Romania's Central Electoral Committee suspended Georgescu's application, stating his actions and statements contravened the values of the presidential office. Dubbed the TikTok Messiah, Georgescu came out on top in the first round of Romania's presidential elections last year. However, the country's constitutional court annulled the vote following the declassification of intelligence reports showing Russian involvement in influencing voters through social media to support the then relatively unknown candidate. Georgescu is also facing criminal proceedings including anti-constitutional acts and misreporting his campaign finances. Portugal's minority government lost a confidence vote in Parliament, forcing its resignation and prompting the European Union country's third general election in 3 years. The government's fall marks the worst spell of political instability since 1974, when Portugal adopted a democratic system and ended a dictatorship. A string of minority governments have been unable to forge alliances that might ensure the administration completes its 4-year term without being brought down. A new election, likely in May, pitches millions of Portuguese people into months of political uncertainty. The Portuguese government asked for the confidence vote amid a simmering political crisis that is focused on Prime Minister Luís Montenegro, revolving around potential conflicts of interest in the business dealings of his family law firm.
The European Commission wants to extend the Made in Europe tag to medicines. A proposal presented this Tuesday aims to tackle shortages, especially for essential drugs such as antibiotics, insulin or painkillers. Now, the EU is highly dependent on third countries, mainly in Asia.
So this initiative represents a significant step forward, as I say, to ensure that these essential medicines remain accessible, affordable and available to all Europeans who depend on them.
The plan is to boost the investment for manufacturers both of essential medicines and key ingredients in the European Union.
So it's definitely a good step We're moving towards sovereignty in terms of a less dependency on other continents and other countries on the delivery of medicines. We're moving towards a greater access for the people of Europe for affordable medicines.
European Health Commissioner Oliver Varhelyi's self-imposed 100 days in office deadline was fulfilled. But for some MEPs, the proposal was too rushed and turned out to be not enough.
This is not going to bring back medicine production to Europe. This is not going to solve the problem neither for the patients, neither for the pharma industry. So it's really a deception and is the proof if something is too much rushed, it is not fulfilling the expectation that we need. We have a lot of challenges to face in order to fight shortages of medicines.
Financing the whole plan remains now a key issue, according to some MEPs, but also to several EU health ministers, who believe critical medicines should be under the scope of a future defense funding scheme.
Se le va a dar la palabra a los representantes del Ministerio Público Fiscal, luego a los letrados de los particulares damnificados.
Con la prueba que se produzca en el juicio, ustedes, como jueces del tribunal interviniente.